Good morning, St. Maarten. What's cooking? December 27, 2023, episode 1010. 4 days and be into 2024. Has been a rough 2023, that's for sure. For many of us, including me. But we have all reached December 27th. Let's push on to 2024. Now, normally I like to pick topics and I delve into topics. I've been off for the Christmas days and a few days before, and it is a complete circus. The amount of lies, the crazy empty promises being made by this government and some of its ministers and politicians, it's just mind-boggling, mind-blowing. So I decided to address a few of them. I can't address all because I would need 5 hours of show to sit down and address all the nonsense that is being said. I mean, they're even making posters about their accomplishments that are not true. That's how bold they are. But we won't get to that just now. But this morning, for example, there was a signing ceremony. It should have just finished. It was from 9 to 9:30. The Minister of Justice said that it's a historic moment for St. Maarten because the function books, etc., were all going to be signed off today. The one thing she is not talking about, and that's the one word I want to give her to take with her today, is pay. Pay the people. Stop signing off all kind of nonsense and you don't have money for it. It's the same thing they did with the COLA. They gave us 1% of this year's salary or last year's salary. But COLA was due for 13 years and they promised the people they were going to repay it, and then suddenly the story became no, but it's not mandatory. So who tell you we paying you? Now, this is this all fool's joke things that they do. Then they jump up and now they put a spin on it. They said, don't worry, come 2024, we're going to raise your salary, we're going to raise your vacation allowance, we're going to raise your Christmas bill, whatever they want to raise. The question is, do they have a legal basis for this? Why do I ask that? Because when you raise things in a permanent fashion, it's not a policy, it's a law. Like how our good friend, the Minister of VSI, doesn't understand yet. Ministerial orders are exactly that, an order. It's not a law, it's a wish. Because if it doesn't have a law, it can't work. And this is the question with the COLA now, the question with the salary increases. If there is no law attached to it, I believe we're going to have a serious problem as we go down the road, and the new government will find itself in some serious predicaments because people are expecting certain things now, but the law doesn't allow it. Now, I'll give you another example of craziness. 4 years, the Minister of Education has sat on the throne in the palace, and it was all about special education and what all he was going to do. And when, the cries came for special education, he said he was going to put children here and put children there. And then he was to be in Parliament to discuss the special education law, I had hoped. But it turns out now to be a policy. Again, a policy doesn't make it law. Policy is just a desire. This is the way we're going to do it for now until we have a law. But it doesn't guarantee money. It doesn't guarantee being put into use. A law has a starting date. A policy doesn't. See, these are the little intricacies that you got to watch out with. Because right now, everything that couldn't happen for the past 4 years is happening right now. They are rolling out policy after policy. Because what is the minimum wage increase? A policy. The minister just running a ministerial decree, that's a policy, that ain't no law. Understand these things. Because this way, at least then you won't be fooled. Because if it took the Minister of Education 4 years to create a policy for special education, it's going to take him 20 years to build schools and get it done correctly. Because the good gentleman truly, truly doesn't understand it. Now, I notice a lot of politicians, ministers out there are noting their accomplishments on their posters. Some of them blatant lies. Most of the accomplishments came from the NRPB. If you want to thank somebody, thank Claret Connor and his team and the World Bank for doing a lot of things that you have seen. The 1 billion guilders that came from the Netherlands didn't come to the government because they didn't trust the government. They didn't allow the government to do a damn thing. Don't let them fool you, they did it. Otherwise, that billion guilders would have been by them and not by the World Bank, checking and making sure things are done the right way. This is the Dutch saying this, not Van Kampen. Don't try to shoot me because I said that they didn't trust you all. They said so, not me. So again, we need to understand what's really, really happening. Look, if I wanted to list my accomplishments, I needed many posters. But you know, the accomplishments that I have, and even what the ministers have, a team did that. A team did it. And in team, there's no I. But in this election, you know how many I ballers there are? There are plenty. But on the political stage, I'm going to start calling off all those visionary eyeballers too. Because they're all I. They did everything. Nobody else assisted. Nobody else should take credit. Most of the things in government were done by the NRPB for the past 4 years. Now, I didn't understand something, and I'm going to address it today because I know on stage it will happen for sure. Back on December 14th, I believe it was, there was a rally of the National Alliance in Sucker Garden. The Prime Minister found it fitting to address the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister Duran, as a little black boy. Now, why would she do that? Why pull a race card? She was alluding to him as the little black boy that committed a crime, and they want to kill him for that. Or was it that she got the phone call that prime ministers normally get when they're going to hit a politician? Check with former prime ministers. They'll tell you when they're going after somebody, they just give the prime minister a little tip off because it can be an embarrassment to the government. Was that the reason she got soft and started opening the doorway? Because there are a lot of other people that are black too, that have been ostracized by the public prosecutor's office. I didn't hear her say anything then. Or is it only when it's her people that she protects them? You see, these are the things that we got to be very careful with. But again, I didn't open that Pandora's box. The Prime Minister did. And once I finish the review of the documents that I'm receiving, and some I have already, about the garbage tender, I am going to put it on Facebook so that everybody can read what truly happened. I will tell you with an experienced background on tendering what went down, how it went down, and who was involved. I will place the names there. I don't care who gets offended. You all know what the prosecutor's office be. File a complaint. File a complaint of slander. And let's see after the court case if it was slander or truth. Because I can prove what I say. Let me make that very clear. I don't go out there talk nonsense that I can't prove. I have warned before. Now I'm getting the complete files that have been circulating on WhatsApp. And once I have them, it's going to be a totally different version of the truth. Vida Nova and its MOU. It was with much amusement that I read the article published about 2 weeks ago, right here before elections, showing that GB is going to build homes for the employees through the pension fund Vida Nova. Now, I objected on Facebook. There was a discussion, I believe it was Emilio Calmera, and I have a lot of respect for Emilio when it comes to these type of things with investments, because he always speaks about, a new beginning in Belize. And I like to have discussions that are substantiated. But this one isn't. It's an MOU. The minister of Vromi suddenly reaches there that he has a housing vision that fits, and this fits within it. This is a public-private partnership between a company using an asset that at this point in time, there's no clarity if they have the right to use the asset to build homes. Because Villanova didn't say for GB employees. You all need to read. Villanova said it's building homes for its clients. And who are its clients? Those are GB employees, those are TLM employees, I believe the airport and another one or two companies on the island. So how in God's name do you pick up a GB asset that belongs to the company NVGB and you put it at the disposal of a pension fund to build homes for different people? Now, again, don't misunderstand me with the concept of the homes. I would support something like that always. I find it a pity that our own pension fund isn't being asked to build these homes, so the money would have stayed in St. Maarten and not fly to Curacao. That's all. The Now Party is for St. Maarten, not for Curacao, not for Aruba. We are for St. Maarten. The people that live here, we represent. And yes, we will have a working relationship with Aruba and Curacao, but we are not going to give away our patrimony to Aruba and Curacao. We got to be clear with this, because a lot of people seem not to want to say these things and hide behind things. But I am surprised, personally, that Villanova and the management of GB would have gotten into a political stunt like this, because that's what it is. It's a political stunt. And you must understand, GB's management only recently received a report where the most critical concern was the political involvement in management and the supervisory board. And here goes management and does this. You see, now suddenly the minister is back and he in charge and he helping GB. When they were signing off the agreement between the union and management, because they came to an agreement with the CLA and all that, and the back pay and all that, he was there. But what did he say? Oh, I'm just here as an observer. Now, with Villanova, he's there as a supporter because it fits within his vision, his housing vision. Look, the man has no damn vision. Let's be clear. He has no vision when it comes to housing. Read his accomplishments on housing. NRPB, 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 Minister of Finance. Not he. He hasn't taken one decision when it comes to housing. He fought the St. Maarten Housing Development Foundation on the floor of Parliament. And he didn't want them to get $45 million to fix and build new social homes. That is Durendi Durant. Go back and check your records from 2021. Go back and check them out, 2020, with the trust fund and all that. Go back and check them. You all got to learn to do your homework sometimes. But I'm here for those that don't want to do it. I can go and check it for you and tell you. So again, it is a joke. It's a complete joke, because none of these matters are political. Why make them political? I understand you need hype to convince the people that you have done nothing and you want to make that something. So you put them on posters, and you put out the posters very early, and you hope that people will drink that white Kool-Aid or that all-color Kool-Aid, whatever Kool-Aid it is, or you're sharing now, and we see how that goes. I mean, I ain't getting into no personal matters with a good minister or any other parliamentarian or wannabe politician. But if you cross the bridge, come down my aisle, you're going to get hit hard. Because then, yes, I can go back at you. And one of them tried it, and I'm going to deal with him today. You see, the land, that asset of GB, it can't just be removed from the books. I am very interested if the supervisory board is a part of this ploy. Because if they are, I believe their job and that of the management is to ensure that the policies and the well-being of the company is not being exploited wrongly. And this is not the best way to go with that land. That land was bought to house GB's warehouses, cable yard, and all those things. All those things had to move, and GB is renting outside. GB is out there renting. And this is normal? No, it's not. It really is not. So again, it's a nice hoax that was reported also as a hoax by a media outlet on this island. So, then only I saying this thing, Others have been saying it. And these people are well known for supporting this party. So what happened? What's really happening, people? Ask yourself that. But, like I said, it's election time, it's politics, so the minister will stop at nothing to try to fool people that he's doing so much. The thing that the minister has done best for GB is destroy it. The minister placed supervisory boards in GB, told a senior member, you had your time, so shut up and move on. The same member that came back and saved him when they was giving him a motion of no confidence. That's the minister we're talking about. The whole hoax, the fight, who do what, who didn't do what, who became a supervisory director, and then suddenly 2 days later, 3 days later, thanked and walked away and took a payout. This is what you did. You destroyed GB in the process. And when the things got hot, you jump, and the Prime Minister had to jump in the fire for you. And she said she ain't get no answer, so she can't answer. That is what you have done for GB. Not a damn thing else other than making sure that your family and girlfriend and all them got working there. All right? So if you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. How you understand? Facts. We're going to talk about facts. Let me tell you something. January 3rd, we start our public meetings every day. From the 3rd to the 8th, we are in a district on stage. Facts you want to hear? Facts you're going to get. I'm going to tape those presentations so we can play them on Facebook also for everybody to hear it and see it. Because I think it's time that the truth is told. Too often, we lie about things. I don't have to lie. I tell you what I see, what I feel, and what I'm going to do. Others come and hide behind fake names on Facebook and all kind of things to sell stories. Not me. I don't have no time for that stupidness. I really don't have no time for it. But I'll tell you this. An MOU was signed without any binding agreements between Vida Nova and the temporary representative of NVGB. So, in reality, it's a blank piece of paper. You can't derive no rights from that paper. It's just a memorandum of understanding. So let's understand we want to work together, etc., but they can't bind you to nothing in an MOU. Unless you put a clause in there that they can derive rights. But then you have a different problem. Because then it all depends on what the corporate structure of GB says, what's allowed and what's not allowed. And I don't believe the temporary representative has far-reaching powers without the board of directors. That's why I wanted to know what was the supervisory board of directors' position on this. But again, it is what it is. 20 days before elections, bam, we throw out something like this, and we hope it sticks. It's not going to stick because everybody's going to shoot it full of holes. Everyone is going to do that. But again, I find it a pity, like I said, because I think GB's management and the supervisory board have opened themselves to serious criticism and possible consequences down the road. Because if this turns out to be a political ploy, I think management got a serious problem on their pants. Because you don't pull these type of stunts 20 days before elections. You could have done it 6 months ago. That piece of land was there 6 months ago. Vida Nova was there 6 months ago. And you were there, Mr. Management, 6 months ago. So why you didn't do it then? Why you didn't do it then? Why wait 20 days before election and then put the minister, the dumbest, stand up beside you to take a picture? Why? If you play politics, please understand there will be political consequences. Because if another party gets in there, and I firmly believe that's going to happen, things are going to change. Because when they start to ask questions, why did you do this or why didn't you do that? How do you answer then? You can't blame the fellow gone. Because the Minister of Justice did that this morning, and she signed a historic agreement. Because what was done in 2019 was pure BS that causing police officers to have to pay back money today. But he got the votes, he won. So he don't care. He moved on. He dropped justice and he went to Vromi. Tried to rake out what he could rake there, hope to win this election, but that ain't gonna happen. Because the difference is that they couldn't expose him in justice. But I could expose him in Vromi. That's for sure. So it's gonna become fun. As we go along, it's gonna become a lot of fun. But again, in GB there should be no politics. And I know there is politics, just like at the harbor, at the airport, TLM and all them. But we got to try to minimize the politics because sometimes it does the companies more harm than it does them good. Taxi drivers and these bus permits, these new permits. Here again, I saw a list circulating on Facebook and on WhatsApp, or it was on WhatsApp. I'm not sure. But when you check the list, you will realize a few things right away. There are very few small numbers, which means applications that were older versus the new numbers. You will also realize that a lot of double plates were given out. So one number has more than one plate, especially in the buses. I saw that. In the taxis, I couldn't go through the whole list. I got the list a few days ago, or I saw it a few days ago and I downloaded it. I'm going to review it. But the cardinal question is naturally how many persons that applied, for example, in 2020 got a permit. That's going to be a cardinal question. Because when you look at the list, you realize a lot of things. And then I jotted down a few questions that I believe should be asked publicly. And hopefully if the minister or his goonies listening, they can answer. Was a review done of the market situation? And if yes, by who? When was it done? And can the report be published in full on the government website? You don't need to give it to me. Publish that report. That justified the minister giving out hundreds of bus plates and hundreds of taxi plates. Because that's what it is. Don't let nobody fool you. That's what it is. Check the list. You'll see them. How many applicants got more than one permit? And if they are, why was that? Because the bus permit, unless they have a company, I understand they apply as a company. But I didn't see applications indicating a company. It was an individual that carried a number. That's how I read it. The list used to grant the taxi and bus licenses is from when exactly? Is this only from September 11th, 2023, when we had a one-day stampede at the government building for anybody and everybody to register for a taxi and bus permit? How many people applied for bus and taxi license before September 11th, 2023 and got a permit? That's the killing question for me. How many people before had applied and got that permit? There are very persistent rumors going around that many persons paid cabinet members of TIAP serious money to receive a permit. Is this accusation true, Minister? Have you heard it? And if yes, have you looked into it? Because just like how I hear it, just like how you read it in messages that are forwarded 100 times on WhatsApp, the question is, did you read it, Minister? And if the answer is yes, what are you doing about it? Because the integrity of your office naturally is being tarnished. And if it is not true, then let's lay this to rest immediately. Royal Caribbean. Now, the cruise line Royal Caribbean has been reducing their cruise calls to St. Maarten steadily since the past few years. So, the last 2 years at least, I believe. During a recent meeting of Parliament, these questions were asked about the sudden decrease, cancellation, diversion of their major fleet from St. Maarten. The answers given weren't all that clear nor convincing, telling us that bigger ships are used. So ships that have 5,000 passengers are used to replace 3 ships that have 1,500, meaning you have one ship instead of 3. Isn't all correct, other than, yeah, you got some more people actually, but you get 500 people more instead of 4.5. But the question would then be, how many come off the ship? How many use the services on island? Taxis, restaurants. Are there numbers that show an increase there, or does that show a decrease? The tour operators, to my understanding, are not happy. They're not happy at all with the decrease in the ships. And again, when you walk through Front Street sometimes at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and there are 4 ships in port, but you can't find a tourist on the street, the question is, what's happening? What's really happening? And you know, a lot of us seem to be afraid to ask hard questions. Well, that's what I'm made of. I ask hard questions. I ask difficult questions. So I decided, you know, let me dig a little deeper, because nobody seems to want to explain the downward spiral of ships from Royal Caribbean pulling away. So as I started to dig deeper, it also became somewhat evident that the company feels itself targeted by this special investigation that is going on into the harbor, court cases going on into the harbor about Xebec. In the Xebec claim for $100 million, the harbor is excluded. One politician is included. A few wealthy businessmen on the island are included. But most importantly, Royal Caribbean is included. And Royal Caribbean is included for whatever reason, judicially. But it is my firm opinion that they don't want nothing to do with a country that wants to implicate them in their internal bullshit. So they are pulling out slowly but surely. Remember, they invested in our harbor. They invested in one of those piers. They own 2 berths. So they will minimize their on-island activity until they have a better clarity of what's really going on in this bogus case. Because that they're being targeted for $100 million because they have it, and that we allow this to happen in our country, then we shouldn't be crying when things go wrong in the tourism sector. We shouldn't cry, because we are bringing this upon ourselves. We're allowing our economy to be destroyed by a very special group of people that seems to have been targeting certain groups to extort them. Because this is extortion. Royal Caribbean, in the Xebec case, as I read it, said no to one group and yes to another. But that's their right. That's their God-given right. It is the group in the harbor that sold them the land, or gave them the promissory note on it. Ask which visionaries did that. Because we come here and we pretend to be holier than thou. But that holiness is going through the window just now. Because a special interest group, once they get what they want, and they have destroyed what they want, they just pull the plug and move on. So, what is it? Has the government looked into this? Because the Minister of Fiat has no clue what's really happening. Please understand this. Don't leave this problem on his desk. Don't do that. You'll destroy this country. I think you all need to talk to Royal Caribbean and see what's really happening. Why they gone? Why they not funding the vendors market anymore? Because that was a whole big show. I could remember that poppy show. Oh, Royal Caribbean will do this. Royal Caribbean ain't doing nothing. Royal Caribbean didn't even fix in Front Street like they had promised before. And that's most probably because they're being dragged through the mud in a court case where they don't have fault really. They have obligations, but they also have rights. And their rights were to make the calls they made. And that we don't agree with them, and that we get a justice system that wants to sit on the seat of government to decide what has to happen and what cannot happen and what will not happen, then we got a problem. You know, it is a few days ago, maybe a week and a half, that in the Amigo newspaper, and that's a Dutch-based newspaper in Curaçao. It's still printed in Dutch, not in English. They said that there's corruption in the judiciary, and names of lawyers were mentioned. Sorry, names of judges were mentioned. And the people that were backing this were two politicians in Aruba that were convicted and one in Curaçao. I think Schotter was in Curaçao. And Omar Uliber, I think, is another one. And Benny Seafinger is the other one. And I smiled and I said, okay. Well, at least somebody else is writing the story. And it's not only Bandcamp always talking. And naturally, when this happens, you suddenly see the Dutch undercover newspaper in Curaçao. They start shooting shots. Whoa! How could Amigo write something like this? And journalism, ethics. Please, man. Please. Y'all should not be talking about journalism ethics. Amigo got 50, 75 years under their belt doing journalism in this country. Anything that they write, there's always another side to the story. So the court said they're going to see what they're going to do. Well, let them do what they have to do. Did he lie? Is he telling the truth? I can say. I have seen prosecutors break the law, taken off a case and put on a plane and sent to Holland. I've seen prosecutors drink drunk, knock down people in Middle Ridge and said they run away because they were fearing their life, sent to Holland. I've seen prosecutors in St. Maarten lock up people because they were having an affair with their wives, sent to Holland. And that's just the prosecutors. We have had cases where judges were sitting with prosecutors so they could lock up certain politicians in Greenhouse. So please, when a story like this breaks, I always read it carefully. Do I believe judges are corrupt? I believe they have an agenda. I believe they support their own. And they will do what they have to do, even if that means twisting the law to ensure that their colleagues are not hanged out to dry. That's what I believe. And I've seen it in my appellate conviction. The verdict says absolutely nothing. My lawyers go in there, my wife's lawyers go in there with hundreds of pages of defense. And it is as if they don't exist. When you read that verdict, there was no defense. That's not how a court functions. But I know I'm a difficult person. I know I come out and I have no bones in my mouth. And I say things that they would have hoped I wouldn't say. So they're going to make it a little difficult for me. But I'm okay with that. I can live with that. I have fought every day of my life to go forward. I'm not going to allow a system or anybody to push me backwards. That's not me. That's not me. Anything will happen. So we need to find out what's really happening with Royal Caribbean. We really need to find out. Because the vendors market ain't going no place no more. Pain going no place. They haven't even broken ground. This thing was supposed to be finished already. They have lied to those vendors day in, day out. You know, I'm not going to try to fight the vendors' fight. They went to Parliament. There were 15 parliamentarians sitting there, and I don't know what they have done. Because at this point in time, talking don't make sense. Send them home. Send home who needs to be sent home. Explain and tell the public what's really happening. Because I hear others, 1,000 people who are offered jobs in the cruise ships. How much went to work? How much got a job? How much qualified? You see, these are the things sometimes that we got to be careful with. We have job savers, job fairs, job mixers, all kind of job things. How much people get a job? And when you hear 1, 3, then you scratch your head and you say, but if they're not good enough to get the jobs, then we have to look at our education system because something is dead wrong. Something is dead wrong. And this is the problem with this country. We are afraid to tackle the ills of the country. And then we come out here and we talk in this nonsense about, oh, we worked so hard for 4 years. What did you accomplish? Honestly. I ain't going to say you didn't accomplish nothing because then I'm lying. But I'll say this. You didn't accomplish enough. Not much. Nothing to help this country go forward. Because when you had to make a decision, you chose the easy way out. Let Holland pay for it. We're going to do whatever you say, Master. It's okay. We good with that. You just tell us. So you're not really ready to lead this country into the new destination. Country St. Maarten. You're not ready. You want to tag along and play along, to get along. You can't do that in life always. Sometimes in your life, you have to push off a friend that is holding you down because he's afraid of change. You got to let him go and tell him, safe journeys. But I need to move on to higher heights. This country needs to move on to higher heights. This country needs to make its own people wealthy. We need to give them opportunities, but we got to prepare them for those opportunities. Otherwise, they will never see the opportunity coming. And it will pass in front of them. And that's what's happening right now when people go for jobs. They're not getting them. They're not getting the jobs because they're not prepared for the jobs, or there's one big witch hunt against us. I don't believe the last one so much. I believe we're not prepared. So I think, Minister, tell the people what's going on with Royal Caribbean and why they're not building the vendors market. And if they're building it, come out with the documents, show that the money has been made available. Because I know that you can do. Anguilla voters. A candidate of the National Alliance went over to Anguilla. And I was on Lady Grace. I'd heard of it because I saw some rallies on Facebook. There were some pictures of the government in Anguilla. Oh, let me rephrase. Certain members of government in Anguilla with a T-shirt on in a little rally campaign, get to know the candidate because he is born in Anguilla. So get to know the candidate, etc., etc. And nothing wrong with those type of things. But lowering those voters to come to vote in St. Maarten, that's a different story. Now, if you are registered in St. Maarten, so you have a Dutch passport, you don't need to be registered in St. Maarten to have a Dutch passport. Let me clarify that. I can have a Dutch passport. I have a Dutch passport. Tomorrow morning, I decide to go and register in Santo Domingo to live or register in Anguilla to live. That doesn't give me the right to vote in St. Maarten because by law, I should deregister from St. Maarten to go and live in another country. That's what the law says. You can't do it in the kingdom. You can't go live in Curacao and not deregister in St. Maarten because the census in Curacao won't take you because they overlap in all names here so they can see it. They ask you for your deregistration. Other countries don't. So what happens, citizens of another country remain registered in St. Maarten, and when it's election time, and this is nothing new, for the past 30, 40 years, they used to fly in people from all over the world. Anguilla had boats coming over election day. I have seen it when I used to campaign myself. I've seen the boats coming over and the people go to vote. But there's a catch to it. Because if you are registered in the census of St. Maarten, that means you're a taxpayer in St. Maarten. And the Dutch tax law in St. Maarten is very, very clear. You must file your world income. So whatever you make in Anguilla, for example, let's say you make $100,000 in Anguilla, and the wage tax or whatever tax you have to pay was 10%. That means you pay $10,000. When you come to St. Maarten, you have to file that you made $100,000 in Anguilla and you paid $10,000. What will the tax office in St. Maarten then do? They're going to look at, did you pay enough taxes in our system? So if our system was 20% you had to pay, that means there's a balance of 10% for you to pay. So you owe the St. Maarten government $10,000 in taxes because that's your income. You see, this is where things can go wrong for a lot of people, because I am saying it so that those in charge can look at it carefully, because it's unfortunate that we want to bring in thousands of people from all over the place to vote in St. Maarten, to decide a government, and they don't even live here. Then you could have just as well give every permanent resident, every illegal resident the right to vote in St. Maarten because they live here. You see, we got to be careful with the message we are sending. And when people say, but if they can't even play by the rules, why should we, as young people, then don't ball? Because we are creating this atmosphere. We are opening Pandora's box now. Listen, in the past, a lot of politicians went to Anguilla, St. Kitts, down the islands. They even fly them in from America because there they can't register unless they got a green card or they get permanent residency there. So, again, we got to understand what we are doing. And if you go down and lure them here, please tell them that they have tax obligations in this country too. Because when, I'm not going to say if, when the voters registry is placed beside the tax registry, there are going to be a lot of names popping up that are not filing taxes here, but voted here. Then it's time to go and look for those people. And when we do find those people, because the tax office is being beefed up and digitalized, certain things become a click of a button. And then you start sending out, asking information in other countries if these people are registered by them. And then it will pop up. You can remember the CAF on the French side? You saw the results after that. How many people get hold and have to pay back a lot of money? The same can happen with taxes. If you want to vote for government here, then you should pay your fair share of taxes here too. That's the bottom line. And those that feel that what they're doing is wrong and they want to campaign against me, be my guest. Because now we know who for St. Maarten and who against St. Maarten. Now we definitely know it. So let's not pretend. You know better, do better. You want to show the world you can ride a quad in Anguilla with your flags and all that? Tell them you're willing. Well, maybe you could use some of the money you got from the partner that testified in court he gave $200,000. Use some of that money to start paying taxes. Did you declare that? Now, let's get to the one thing that I believe a lot of people want to know. Can I run? Can I be elected? And can I take my seat? This is something that has sent some wannabe politicians into a frenzy to talk about. So it is with a little skepticism, that I'm going to answer the questions above. But can I run? I'm on a list. The Electoral Council allowed it. So yes, I can run. Can I be elected? Yes, I can. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been placed on the list. Because you can't be placed on a list and said you can't be elected. So I can run and I can be elected. My verdict does not speak of my loss in passive or active right to vote or to be elected. I was not laid that punishment. I wasn't given that punishment in my appeal conviction, nor in my first instant conviction. And there's a reason for that, people. The allegations against me for which a conviction came happened 10 years or more ago when I was a civil servant. That's what this case is about. The dump and the Stelpost. Stelpost was from 2013, dump 2015-16. So 7 to 10 years ago. That's what this case is about. I was not a politician. I was not a parliamentarian. I was not even a minister. Our Constitution speaks of those things. It doesn't speak of civil servants. It speaks of those things. It speaks of committing a crime in those functions. That's what it is. And for the parliamentarians, they basically had nothing, because the difference is a minister is an appointed person by the government and then given the oath by the governor. The parliamentarian is chosen by the people and then given an oath by the governor. There's a big difference between the appointment and the being chosen. And when you read our Constitution and when you read a memorandum of the explanations on it, you realize instantly that there are a few things that are wrong. And when I was suspended the first time, I sent a letter to Parliament asking them to please have this reviewed, get an answer from the Council of Advice so that the articles in the Constitution can be packed up immediately because they're in breach with treaties. Now, the treaty that is in breach is the ICCRP. And the ICCRP is basically the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Now, understand that this is what I asked for in my first suspension, and they told me when it was sent to the Council of Advice, oh, no, they don't answer personal matters. I never addressed my letter to them. I addressed my letter to Parliament. But I'll show you how they play the game. I'll show you how the game is played. Because the Parliament got a letter, should have dissected the letter, the Presidium should have, and then asked for advice as Parliament. And the Council of Advice had to give an advice, because the question that Parliament should have asked was very simple. Are we in breach with the international treaties that we are signatory to? The ICCRP in particular, and the articles were listed. Because remember, we also use the European Human Rights Covenant when it's convenient to us for labor, for same-sex marriage, etc. We use them. But the same International Covenant for Civil and Political Rights, that's pushed aside. Or we don't answer personal requests. It was not a personal request that I made to them. I sent a formal letter to Parliament, and they just pushed it aside because they couldn't afford me coming back in. Because I was not one of those mammy boys. Yes, yeah, no problem. Just give me this and give me that, and then we go to go. No. If it ain't a good thing, go in a place. That's the difference. You see, so when you read the law carefully, you realize that because I never committed an illegal act while being a minister or a parliamentarian, the law isn't really addressing me directly. Also, the law speaks of a term. It doesn't speak of till the case is ended, because that's an open-ended question. You see, there are a lot of things. You got to be careful what's happening and what's not happening. Robert, we're not talking about double taxation. I'm not talking about double taxation. If you pay taxes in Anguilla, but in our system you have to pay more, you're going to pay more here. You should know much better. You should know better, Robert. Don't come try to talk about double taxation. I'm not talking about double taxation. I'm talking about worldwide income as our law very clearly states. But you see, let me get back to where I was. But then you go and you hear politicians jump up on stage and start talking about, I can't take my seat. And when I get elected, I'll be a 16th man again, collecting a salary but not working. Okay. So let me explain you how this works. At least the politician on stage understood that I'm going to win my seat. He knows that already. But then he tries to say, I can't take my seat because the Constitution says so. And I disagree. When you read the Constitution and the Memorandum of Explanations, you're going to realize that it isn't so what's being said. But again, not many people are interested in doing that because that's not the story nor the narrative they have to sell. They want to sell the narrative that, oh, I can't take my seat because they say so. But let me tell you all something. It wasn't only that I can't take my seat. The young man, let's to distinguish them, let's talk about the small Maarten and the big Maarten. The small Maarten said that I can't walk in his daddy's shoes, in big Maarten's shoes. But I never said I wanted to walk in his shoes. I never pretended that I walked in his shoes. I gave the good man credit. I gave MP William Allen credit because I think he did a lot of good things for this country. Country didn't always accept it. He built all the roads and he got a clobbering at the polls. But again, he did it. That's his credit, not mine. I never said I built all the roads. I didn't take no credit for what he did. So no, I'm not trying to walk in his shoes. I have my own shoes to walk in, believe you me. And those big already. But you didn't see me bring my wife to the talk show, right? You didn't see me trying to ask him, he could tell you, I just work hard. I answer all the phone calls. I WhatsApp everything. I give all the questions. And then you hear Angelique saying, well, whatever I say, he said that for his account. You see, you gotta be careful, bro. Because the radio talk show hosts, they catch on to this nonsense long time. So they're gonna bleed the questions out of the other candidates and they're gonna do what they do best. They're gonna throw you under the bus. They did it already. And they're gonna do it again. Remember, you're trying to destroy Duran. What do you think Duran going to stand up there and watch you destroy him and he going to come back at you? Firing at full blast? I am in a different party. I'm not competing for his seat. But you are. You see, you all are seeing defeat at the horizon. And when you see defeat, you all start getting nervous and you start eating each other. You all then become crabs in a bucket. And you all get dangerous towards yourself. Not to me, towards yourself. I had to laugh though when he started off about the name, what a name means. You know all those other ghost walkers, but their name means nothing. And he said his name, Maarten, is tied to good representation, etc. I see it a little different. When I hear Maarten, I think of that blue Maarten. I think of that big fish that gives you a hell of a fight when you fight fishing, but eventually you land him on board. But in the sports of fishing, there are rules. If the fish is too small, you got to throw him back. So, you see, you're a little small yet. I don't want to ruffle you too bad, so I'm going to throw you back in the water for now so you can grow a little bit. Because, son, you can't run the government on WhatsApp. You really can't do that. And I hope that you understand that when you come at people come back at you. The 16th seat that you say I'm going to take, ask the one that approved the Constitution how that happened. Because no place else in the kingdom do we have it. Was he sleeping when it passed? You got to talk. Because you're out here running your mouth. I've been nice so far. What I've done here is being nice. When I get on stage, I can't promise you that. Then you'll have to just listen to the video and move on. But again, it is what it is, they say in politics. The poster war. Who can put up more posters than the others? I didn't want to put up posters this year at all. So the party put up a set of billboards. I think there are 2 personal ones in a group of 21 and then a few big billboards. And financially, the party has opted not to take money from specific groups. In one sense, I think the party even sent back the check. I told them, keep the check. Because they were disrespecting the party. But when you look outside there, and you look at the amount of plywood and 2x4s, that you're going to put on your list as an accomplishment if you had put it on people's roof. If you had used that neon color on your poster and paint the traffic lines on the road, you're going to put that as your accomplishment. But you didn't. Y'all got to understand that politics has changed over the years. Posters, chicken leg and Johnny cake, those times are gone, man. Those times are gone. We have social media. You can advertise digitally instead of dirtying up the board. All those, I think you have 7 to 1, you have SMN News, you have the Daily Herald digitally. So you can do a lot of things digitally, and you don't dirty the environment. Right now, we have more billboards up than signboards from businesses. It is crazy out there. I saw a billboard yesterday. I was baffled. I think that thing is 20 foot high by 16 foot wide. Happy holidays. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And they're blocking each other. They turn it on the angles. Well, yeah, they can figure it out because I am not part of that war this year. In the past, I've put up billboards too. So I'm not going to say, don't do it. Look, billboards, I can understand for newcomers, they want to make sure their face is known. But to what extent we go, and etc. I mean, I find it a pity it took away from the charm from Christmas. But hey, it is what it is. So all those that are fighting there and throwing out posters all over the place, I wish you all the best at the polls. But I'll leave you with this: posters don't win a war. Believe you me, honestly, they don't win a war. And had we used that money to do something that this country needs, like feeding its people, I think we would have gotten a much better bang for our money. Minimum wage increase on All Fools Day. Many things are being said about raising the minimum wage to 10 guilder 40 and how great a feat that was. From $8.95 or $8.90 to $9.95 and now to $10.40, and a percentage of increase, etc., etc. Now, a few things. It's a hoax. The minister made a ministerial decree. A ministerial decree is an administrative act. It cannot be executed if it needs a law. Minimum wage increases need the backing of a law. That law is not there yet. So what does the minister say? Oh, he's giving the stakeholders time to get accustomed to the 1040. And I'm saying to myself, but Minister, if there's no law in place to do this, how is this going to work? You still need to put the legislative law in place. You still need the Landsman's Law, the national decree. And that is no place in the discussion. And why is that? Because April 1st is All Fools Day? Or is it once you're elected, you're not the minister of VSR, but maybe another one that you can do a Duran and just pick another portfolio and move on? Or sit in parliament because you were elected? What is the exactly, minister? Because what you're telling the people is not the whole truth. Yes, the Article 9.7 says the minister can increase the minimum wage, but it also states that it must be supported by a national decree. So while you make that administrative decision that I'm going to raise it to 10 Gilda 40 by April 1st, 2024, and I have here the law that allows it, then your story was closed. Then you were full circle. But you're not. Because you don't have that law. And the reason is most probably because you don't have the support for that law. And that means the SER and the CCSU, or not the CCSU, sorry, the SER, the SHTA, those groups, going to have to come together and agree if they can carry that load of 45 cents per hour, which is on average, if I say 45 cents per hour, that's about $62 extra per day. So about $40, $50 extra a month on your salary, on your minimum wage salary. That's what this increase means. Now suddenly the minister woke up, and after reading the Now Manifesto, he realized that a subsidy system must be made within the government system to gradually bring them up to a livable wage. Because our cost to live on this island, according to the census, is 3,552 guilders per household. Minister miraculously jumps up and says, it's 2,400 guilders. Where you pull that number from? What substantiates that number? So that's the problem. We have a lot of households that have one breadwinner. One. So where do you substantiate this number? Other than saying, that's what it is, because I say so. Again, the story is not the complete truth. The story is a storyline to get votes. It's not a reality that's going to come to us. It's just a storyline to get votes. So we got to be a little careful when we hear these type of things, because I haven't heard one stakeholder yet come out publicly and say, we are supporting this raise. We're going to do this, because the ministerial decree cannot force the stakeholders. He said he spoke to them and everybody agreed. So why they now they're supporting it? Why aren't the stakeholders out there saying, that's right, we're going to help him. We are going to pay the people of St. Maarten. Look, I believe that we need to go to a livable wage. Then now is not only campaigning on it, we made it part of our manifesto, and we made it part of one of the points that we are not going to concede on if we are going to form a government. There's a transition period for such. We said we have to create a subsidy program to help all of those that need help to get to a livable wage. And that the taxation will give us the desired help to reach there. It's not a light switch. It won't happen in one year. Not going to tell you it's going to happen in a year. But within the term, we want to be there. We want to be there. This is what we need to be honest about. Reality. Because we give a lot of things, but we don't see how it's going to be done. The stakeholders agree. Which ones? Tell us who they are. Tell us when you consulted with them. How much money was raised by the stakeholders to have this done? Are there going to be any tax breaks for the stakeholders? Otherwise, it makes no sense. I'm smiling because I'm seeing my granddaughter. So I hope when we look at it from this perspective, that also the perspective that the Minister of Fiat is going to have to do his job and protect the businesses from this hoax. Because if he doesn't, then we got another problem. But like I said, it is unfortunately a reckless behavior from the minister, and I hope that we are cautious with how we deal with this matter. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be a big problem. The extreme weather has now become a permanent risk, and climate adaptation strategies are needed, says the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Maarten. I will come back on this one in another broadcast, as I don't want to pass the time frame that I set for myself. In closing today, our public meetings are starting January 3rd, straight up until January 8th. We will bring our message loud and clear. I'll be publishing my findings on the garbage contracts before January 3rd, so I can address them. Seeing the leader, the NA leader, has agreed that the little black boy, as he addressed the Minister Durant in the Soccer Garden meeting on stage, committed wrongdoings, we're going to talk about them too. Lastly, I'm going to discuss the COLA and what exactly happened in our last paycheck. Also, the empty promises for 2024 and beyond without a legal basis are going to be discussed also in the future by me. I need you to share my podcast, subscribe to my YouTube page, and join me Friday on my 88.3 at 1 p.m. with my Granger, as we have the first question. Believe you me, that one's going to be sweet too. From me to you, Bunks is out. Take care.